Hello everyone, and welcome to Dev Tricks and Secrets. Today we're going to be taking a look at 20 of them across all of the Black Ops 2 zombie maps, stretching of course all the way from TranZit to Origins. This series is really just a way to celebrate the development of these games and to take a look at many things that we saw in the Outside series, as well as some that we didn't get to. If you enjoyed this video, then make sure to leave a like down below. It helps me out a ton, and of course make sure you're subscribed so you can come back for more. But let's get right into it. So here on TranZit, before we get into our first hidden detail, let me just go ahead and do a little bit of R_fog0, and boom. Oh my god, man. Yeah, if you guys haven't seen this yet, it is amazing. Honestly, TranZit Without Fog, it just makes the map so much better. So here on TranZit, for our first dev secret, we have a couple hidden areas here in town. For one, there is this motel right here, and if we go to the top floor, we can see that is actually used for zombie spawn. Zombies will spawn right here in this corner, jump on down to this rooftop below me, and then in through the roof right there. What's interesting about this, however, is the entire upstairs of this building is completely constructed as far as collision goes. I mean, all the walls here have barriers, although obviously a lot of them don't exactly have textures. It's hard to tell exactly what I mean, but right now I am just walking up against one of these walls currently, and you can see that this right here is actually a little bit of a hallway. And below this, you can even see that right here where I'm walking right now is another floor, although this one does not have any interior walls or doors. It's my understanding that town was originally going to have some sort of hotel, and I do believe that this is it right here. This isn't the only unfinished area in town, however. Over here by where Jug is, if we go ahead and hop through this window, we can see, of course, that, well, zombies spawn in here, and if we go down the stairs, well, they actually lead to the back of the bookshop. The stairs do lose their textures here towards the bottom, and of course there is an invisible barrier blocking me from going outside the map further, but it does seem that this would have connected to the bottom of this room. It's my guess that that was the original intention here, and that there would have been more to the first floor of this building, and they decided to just scrap that. And instead, they just left this little section of the room right here for the use of a Semtex location, as well as a part location. And last but not least, probably one of the coolest unfinished areas on the map is the bowling alley. I mean, this place is massive, and there's a whole bunch of area here, and it would have been absolutely amazing to be able to train zombies in this place. And it does seem to me that that was originally the plan, as well as this little offshoot room right here. Everything inside seems to have collision with the player, other than, of course, this mound of rubble that seems to have been added in after the fact. And this door here at the back really feels like one of those doors that you could have placed a turbine at. And for one more final detail here in town, just as a bonus, if you go through this window right here, it, of course, is a zombie spawn location, but if we keep on continuing on around the corner, you can see that there's like a door that looks like it leads to nowhere. If we go through this door, you can see that it actually leads out onto the rooftop out back, and there's an alleyway behind here. Now, I'm not 100% sure about this, but it definitely kind of seems like they were planning to have this be playable space, and it would have made a lot more sense as well if this hotel here was also somewhere that you could go. For our next secret here in Black Ops 2, we got Bus Route B. Now, my opinion on this is that Bus Route B was originally going to be a second bus route for the one bus on this map, and that it was going to be some kind of way to switch it so that it could take a turn here and go through town a different direction. It would travel down this pathway and then actually take a right turn before the whole bowling alley situation right here. And the reason that I'm saying right here, even though we're looking at a picket fence, if we go ahead and no-clip past this, it's very obvious that there's a road texture here leading up to that fence. And it seems like here at the end, they tried to patch that up using some, like, grass and a tree and a whole bunch of, like, dirt texture. But it's quite obvious that behind this, it was definitely going to be a road that would have wrapped around this building all the way over here and then back into town this way as well. Alternately, it's possible that this road right here would have just gone straight back through this wall and then into the cornfield over here somewhere and connected back to the normal bus route here. Now, although that is my opinion, a lot of you guys commented on my TranZit video that this road right here is what you guys think is bus route B, which also kind of makes sense. I mean, this road is a lot longer than it has any business being, so it could make a whole lot of sense. I mean, there's also a whole bunch of lava and rocks here, seemingly covering up this whole area as well. And of course, in the beginning, well, the bus spawns out back of the bus terminal and drives around the side, so it does have pathing through here. And lastly, of course, there's the final fringe theory that the highway system here was originally going to be usable. Which, although I really don't think this is the case, it would have been super cool if there was a bus route that went all the way around the map. It also probably would have been a very long ride. For our next dev trick, we're going to come on over here to the power station, although I suppose this is kind of more like the absence of a dev trick. Before objects get called into a map, they have to be stored somewhere. Of course, the question that I always had for TranZit was, what about the Avogadro? And it turns out that the Avogadro is actually just in here the entire time, and he's constantly doing that animation that he does when he gets lifted up out of it when you turn on the power. You can even knife him while you're in here, and you get that electricity animation thing across your screen as well. As far as I can tell, however, this does no damage to him, and he does not react to EMP grenades either. And lastly, for Green Run, if I load up a map here in survival, such as Town, and then I go ahead and use just a little bit of note clip, we can see that the entirety of TranZit is still here. For instance, over here is the diner, and you can see it's absent of the sign, and as well as like a bunch of other models like the gas station itself. And the door here does actually work. You can buy it for $7.50. And there's even a box here inside, although it does not work. It's kind of glitched out, actually. And you can see that most of the models in here are all loaded out and represented by a bunch of little black boxes. The door to the diner here does work as well, although there is no MP5 wall buy. And sadly, on the roof, there is no Gavel Knuckles either. What I do find pretty interesting about this is even though these objects are loaded out, the barriers that give them collision are not. So, for instance, right here, I actually can't walk over where these black spots are. Some other pretty cool details that happen because of this is, well, I mean, for one, this is what the power room looks like. Kind of insane, actually. Sadly, there doesn't seem to be any Avogadro. However, out front, there is indeed the AK-74U wall buy, and it does work. As I'm sure most of you guys know, on Nuketown, the perks drop out of the sky one by one every few rounds. They come down from this mushroom cloud here and end up on the map somewhere. However, if we turn around, you can see that these perks are stored above their intended locations ahead of time. The models for the perk machines are all here, as well as, of course, the Pack-a-Punch. For pretty much the same reason as the Avogadro, these models have to be stored somewhere before they get placed into the map, and they're stored up here. When it comes time for one of them to be called, they disappear from right here, spawn up inside of that massive mushroom cloud, and then crash to the ground in an animation. For other maps that do this, like Zetsubo no Shima, these perk machines are usually stored under the map, so it's kind of a cool little oddity that here in Black Ops 2, they're just floating up in the air. And lastly for Nuketown, there's a little bit of a dev secret hidden way out there. If we go ahead and note clip on over, we can see that there is actually a few buildings way out here in the distance, as well as a bunker. There's not really anything too terribly interesting about these two buildings right here. However, this bunker over here in the multiplayer actually has mannequin models inside of it. It seems that this was the intended location for the people at Groom Lake to watch the explosion from afar at what could have been a safe distance, although, yeah, I would really want to be further back than this. Now, starting off in Die Rise, we actually have a really cool one. You ever wonder where these elevators are at while they're in this, like, base position down there? Of course, we know there are multiple floors here to spawn. However, if I go down underneath here, We can see that it comes down to a hidden floor right below the other two. And what's even more interesting about this is there's actually like walls in here. I'm currently walking into one and now I can walk around it, and there's another one right here. It seems that this whole area was originally going to be a playable space perhaps at one point, and they just decided to cut it, which, I mean, kind of makes sense. Die Rise is a very confusing map as it is. It kind of feels like a labyrinth, so adding another floor, I mean, I don't think it would have done the map any good. But nonetheless, it is pretty damn cool seeing that this is left behind, and it certainly makes you wonder. For the power building over here, we can see that something similar is the case, except instead of at the bottom, it's actually at the top. Turns out there's a hidden floor here as well, although this one, the door for the elevator does not open. But, I mean, it's equally as cool. There's this massive open space here, and there's even this little hallway which leads out to, well, nothingness. They didn't completely scrap this entire area, however. If we go ahead and look up here, we can see that this is actually a zombie spawn location too. And this becomes even cooler when you go ahead and clip through this wall and realize that the floor continues, and then straight this way, well, it's this little under area that you can see from inside the map. It seems like this was going to be, at one point, a playable space. Although, okay, maybe that last part was a bit of a fantasy. And lastly, for Die Rise, we have probably one of the most famous dev secrets. If we go ahead and go into this elevator shaft, go down a few floors, and then look straight this way, we can find PhD. And man, is it real sad that it didn't make an appearance in Black Ops 2. It's almost like the devs are teasing us, man. But unfortunately, even if you did break past the barrier that is blocking the entrance, there's even another one, and it's a massive cube all the way around this PhD machine. As you can see, I can't actually get close to it. And of course, there is no interaction. I can't buy it either. And something that's pretty cool that I actually missed in Outside Die Rise is right below this is another unused hallway. I guess kind of just like the PhD hallway, it's added for ambiance? Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, although it is pretty cool that it's here.
Sal? Finn? You here? Plan. We had a plan. Gotta find the parts. Gotta get out of here.
Starting off with a small one here in Mob of the Dead, it turns out that this hole down below us that looks like it goes straight to hell is actually a complete lie. If I no-clip on down here, we can find out, well, for one, we can walk straight over it. It just has a barrier on top of it. But that is not even the lie here. If we no-clip under it, we can see that there's no space for it whatsoever. Now, I'm no dev myself, so I'm not 100% sure on how this works, but it seems like they're using a series of the same texture mirrored multiple times, creating this illusion that there's some kind of depth here. And even up close, I mean, it definitely works. And for our next dev secret, it's actually about the construction of Alcatraz. It seems to me, at least, that they created the entirety of the prison before they started making the zombie map part. And by that, I do mean the entirety of the prison. They created this whole area and then went in and decided what parts they wanted to be playable space. Outside the map, everything is here, although some things don't exactly have collision. And this is true for much more than just inside the prison. If we go on out onto the island, we can see that all of the buildings are here, even though many of them, I mean, you never get to look at. Of course, most of them are pretty low poly. There's not a lot of modeling going on. For instance, here is the factory, and they even have little details like this shed down here, which I would have never known existed. Unfortunately, though, however, you cannot walk around the island. The collision with the ground seems to drop off pretty quick. And that actually brings us to our next dev secret. If we go under the map here behind docks, we can find, well, the Goldengate Bridge. Yeah, so the Pack-a-Punch location that you're brought to when you fly that plane off the roof is actually under the map the entire time. It turns out that the Alcatraz island that you see in the distance from the bridge is completely fake. It's just a 2D picture. And the same, of course, can be said about the bridge itself. It's just a 2D texture floating out here above the water. Which I suppose this is why they did it. If we were to stand here and look back at the island, this is what you would see. Well, actually this, because I had fog turned off. I'm assuming the consoles at the time just didn't have enough memory to be able to actually have the Goldengate Bridge, well, be the Goldengate Bridge.
That's more than a hole in the ground. That's the rift.
And to start us off here in Buried, as my character just said, this hole in the ground is supposed to be the rift. But as it turns out, of course, this hole in the ground, well, it's not exactly a hole in the ground. Well, actually, I suppose by the definition, there is a hole here in the ground, kind of. But yeah, as far as the actual hole itself, it's just a texture way out there that's part of the skybox. Which, by the way, this is a really beautiful skybox here on Buried, and you barely get to see it. Now, this next dev secret is probably one of the coolest of the entire video. If I no-clip out the map going this way, we can see that there's actually a little bit of a hallway here, and I can walk on all of this. But not only that, there's even a room here with a bookshelf that does have an animation. It seems to me that there was originally going to be some alternate route out of the witch's house, going this way and around the side, and then perhaps, I suppose, out this gate, maybe? Because, yeah, there's just a gate chilling back there, and I honestly have absolutely no idea why. And what's even cooler about this is that is not the only unused bookshelf. If we hop back into the witch's house, and instead of going left like you're supposed to, we go through this door right here, well, we can find yet another unused bookshelf, which also, again, has an animation. It's important to note, however, that this animation is quite different than the one that's actually used for the bookshelf here. This one just slides back and forth, while the unused ones seem to, like, do an entire 360-degree flip first. Kind of strange. And as far as this room, well, there isn't a room. In fact, there's no floor or anything like that. I don't have collision here. And lastly, here on Buried, if we go by the Pack-a-Punch vestibule, out back, there is a little window location for zombies to come on into the map, and if we go outside and use it, we can see that there's a pathway that just leads off into the distance. Now, although this isn't really all that much of a secret, I just thought it was super cool, man, and being able to explore, like, outside the bounds of the maze, it's an awesome experience. We can see that even this pathway right here also leads out of the map, and it kind of makes you wonder whether they were originally going to let you walk out here, because these two pathways, I mean, totally could have connected. Now, that's entirely speculation. That is probably not the case, but can a man dream? And just so you don't feel robbed, as a little bit of a bonus, if we go ahead and hop off here, this is what is actually at the bottom of the well. Just pitch black nothingness. Although, the walls do seem to have some sort of texture, but, I mean, it's impossible to get a good look at it. Oh, yeah, and there's also, like, a random strip of nothingness out here, too? I mean, it seems like they made a whole platform here at the bottom of the well when, I mean, in reality, there isn't really much of a need for any of this.
I am alive! There's a break. 9. Access must wait. They will be here again soon. I must prepare the defenses. Start up the conversion generators.
Starting off here in Origins, if we go ahead and go towards Generator 3 and turn left instead, we can no-clip outside the map right here and find ourselves a massive trench. Okay, well, it doesn't exactly have collision, it seems. But take a look at this. It goes all the way up around the corner, and it even has some modeling for the walls and some sandbags along the ground. And it goes all the way to the tank path here, which just cuts it off. But if we no-clip past this, it does look like it was originally intended for this to continue further, perhaps connecting to the generator over here somewhere. Now, I don't know if this was intended to be playable space, but it certainly looks like it could have been at one point, and perhaps they scrapped it because they wanted to do this tank path thing. Which, I mean, the tank on this map is pretty awesome, so if all we had to lose was a trench over it, I'm not too upset. But the other theory that I seem to see a lot is that these are actually used for the intro cutscene, and I say these because there's also another one over here at spawn, which is the one I think that Dempsey runs through. And it connects, of course, to this door right here, right next to the M14. Going the other way in this trench, we could see that it would have connected to this area right here where I believe there's like a little shootable Easter egg. It's actually the Maxis drone that you need to use to pick up these to get a free gun, I think, on the map. You guys taught me this in Outside Origins, and it's honestly a damn shame that I still haven't really learned it, have I? Maybe we should make that into a series sometime. Learning the lore of Call of Duty Zombies? I don't know. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think. For our next dev secret, we need to go underneath the map. And if we go right under our feet here at spawn, we can see a whole bunch of light models just being stored down here. And I have absolutely no clue what they're used for. Perhaps this is actually because you can shoot lights out, because I've noticed they come in pairs. There's one that's on and one that's off. So maybe when you shoot a light, they're being replaced with these models here? I really don't know. And although this is a really short one, if we go ahead and travel all the way over here, well, we can find two things. One being these black teleporter boxes, one for each of the player. It seems like they're actually set up in quadrants, which is kind of cool on its own. These are the locations that you get teleported to first, while you see that animation before popping up in the location, well, I mean, I suppose the crazy place. But if we keep on going further outside the map, we can see something else here in the distance. And that is indeed each one of the robot heads. If we hop on into it, we can see that this one here is Freya, to our right is Thor, and continuing further is Odin. So, yeah, you're not actually in the robot head at all. In fact, the robot's head, well, they are completely empty. Not exactly thinking too much, are you there, big fella? And yeah, this is what happens to the robots, by the way. It seems like once they walk off the map, they go under it by, like, walking down a staircase. It's kind of strange, and they do this until they despawn. And last but not least, if we go under the map all the way over here instead, we will find ourselves the crazy place. There's not much to be said about this, other than that it is pretty awesome that it's just stored all the way out here, and walking around outside of the boundaries of it, I mean, it gives you an entirely different perspective on what's going on here. It seems like the devs just surrounded it with a massive cube. Also, the walls that fall up and down while you're in here are all stored up here in the ceiling, which I suppose that makes sense, considering that is where you see them go. And lastly, there's this reddish-orange dev cube sitting right here under it that I believe is used to trigger the ending cutscene. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this little walk down memory lane, and if you did, then leave a like on the video. It helps me out a ton, and of course, make sure you're subscribed so you can come back for more. I love covering the hidden dev tricks and secrets, of course, in the Outside series, and this new series just gives me a way to cover it in a bit more of a concise manner. If you want to watch more of my content, you can click one of the videos on your screen right now, but if not, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Stay awesome, and peace out.